about the importance of keeping intermittent fasting simple for weight loss success. I lost 80 pounds with intermittent fasting, and I've maintained my weight in a normal BMI range for 5 years now. And I still do intermittent fasting to help keep me in that range. And I think one of the most important things I've done with intermittent fasting is just to keep it simple. Keeping it simple has made it so that I can stick with it for the long term. Now, the idea of keeping things simple with intermittent fasting was really counterintuitive to me. I kind of thought, weight loss must be really, really complicated, and that's why I'm overweight. Like, it must just be that there's so many little moving parts, and that's why I got to the point where I was obese. But what I saw was actually, when I was trying to make things really complex, I was not having good results. Like in 2015, I knew about intermittent fasting, and I was trying to implement it, but without fail, I would start out really simple, and then I would just keep like adding things and trying to tweak things around. And eventually I made it so complicated that I would just kind of like throw it out, and then I would, try something else for a while, and then my results really suffered. But in 2016, I got really clear on my plan, and I made it really simple, and that made all the difference. So just looking at my plan itself, you can see that it's really simple. I did intermittent fasting 6 days a week. I took a cheat day on Sunday, and I walked 6 miles a day. It was 3 bullet points. So it was just a very simple plan. And this was really helpful because life is complicated. Life throws you, different things every day. I was a mom of 3 small kids, and they're, constantly asking me questions, and our days are different, and it depends, sometimes it's pretty easy and other times it's really hectic. And it was really helpful when I simplified things because it helped me to just know, like, what is my plan? What am I doing? And by knowing exactly what I was doing, because it was so simple, then it helped keep me on track. On the other hand, when I had all these complicated rules, like, I'm going to count my macros, and I need to also be within a certain calorie range, and I've got to do this and that, then it made it really complicated. And half the time I didn't know, am I even doing what I said I was going to do? So when I simplified things down, I tried to make every aspect of my simple plan really simple. So for example, intermittent fasting is a very simple concept. You just eat for a certain part of the day and you fast for a certain part of the day. And so I tried to keep that as simple as possible too. So for the eating window, I want it to be really simple. So I just told myself, okay, during the eating window, my only rule is just eat during the eating window. So I don't have any complicated rules or really any rules other than don't overeat. I don't want to be miserably full when I'm done eating. Other than that, there are no rules. I don't have any kind of I've got to be low carb, or I need to be low fat, or I need to be, high fat, or anything like that. I can just eat whatever I want during the eating window. That really simplified things. And in the fasting window, I tried to keep things really simple too. It's funny how with intermittent fasting, you can have all these questions that make things complicated. Well, can I have gum in the fasting window? Can I have a mint? Does that break the fast? And there's so many questions. So I decided for myself, okay, I just need to make a rule and then stick with it. And so what I told myself was I can have coffee with half and half whenever I want it in the fasting window. That's my rule. Very simple, very straightforward. I made it for myself one time, and I've stuck with it since then. And the same thing applied to cheat day. I wanted to be very simple, no crazy rules about how to do cheat day. Just cheat day just means a day off from fasting. I'm not going to overeat, but that's the only rule. It's not like I need to wait till a certain point to start eating. And once I had this simple plan in place, my life just became simpler because I knew, here's what I'm doing, and I was having results. So that was encouraging. And I just kept going with that plan. But even though I was having results, I still felt, tempted from time to time because I would sit down, to dinner with friends, and they would talk about I'm doing this thing and I've lost, X amount of weight and all this stuff. And there was a temptation to then make my plan more complex because it's hey, they're having pretty good results. But I made a simple rule for myself. And I just said, any rule that I'm going to try to put into place, I need to ask myself, could I see myself doing that 5 years from now? Because I really wanted to have a long-term view of weight loss and of maintenance. Because I knew getting it off is, tricky, but keeping it off, that's the really hard part. So I need to think, can I keep these changes in place? And intermittent fasting, I knew, I felt man, I could do this forever. But there were plenty of other plans that I heard about that, I would hear about them and think, wow, that, it sounds like their weight loss is really good. But I knew that I would not stick with it for, maybe more than a month or so. So I just kept telling myself, no, I'll wait and see. And in hindsight, I'm really glad I did that I resisted the urge to make complicated changes, because once you make a complicated change, then it's really hard to know, like, is it this new thing that I'm doing and that is the thing that is getting the weight off? Or, could I go back to this other plan? It just keeps things simpler. So if you've been trying to practice intermittent fasting, but it kind of seems too complicated, I would encourage you to simplify it. Just to sit down and make yourself some rules that you can stick with that seem really simple and straightforward. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.